Welcome back to today's video. In this video, we're going to be talking about the three most important states that can ultimately decide the outcome of the 2024 presidential U.S. election between, in a matchup scenario, which is the most likely at this point, former President Donald Trump versus who will be going up against incumbent President Joe Biden at the moment. So basically, in this video, which three states? I have three states, and those three states basically are the most important states out of all 50 states. The top three states that could ultimately determine the outcome of the 2024 presidential election between Trump and Biden. So those three states I will be filling in purple, and those three states include the state of Arizona, the Sunbelt state of Arizona, and two Rust Belt states. Those include Wisconsin and the Rust Belt state of Pennsylvania. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the three most important states out of all 50, the top three that can ultimately determine or decide the outcome of the 2024 election. Those states are Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. I think those states are the tipping point to get a candidate over 270 electoral votes. I think whomever candidate pretty much wins the state of Arizona will win the 2024 election. In my opinion, whichever candidate wins the state of Wisconsin will win the 2024 presidential election. And also, I think whichever candidate wins Pennsylvania will likely win the 2024 election between Trump and Biden. Obviously, RFK Jr., this is now a three-way race, but we're going to focus on Trump, more of Trump and Biden in this video. We're going to, RFK Jr. will be in another video. But yeah, we do have to keep in mind that RFK Jr., this is going to be a three-way race. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania being the tipping point, or the three most important states that can ultimately decide the outcome of the 2024 election. Let me know what you think. Which states do you think will be the deciding factor of the 2024 election? In my opinion, it's going to be Arizona, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania. Some of you may think it's Georgia, but I really don't think so, because if you actually take a look, Donald Trump can win Georgia and still lose the election. So that's why I think Georgia doesn't. I think Georgia is kind of overrated. I think Georgia will not decide the 2024 election. I think you can win Georgia and Trump can still lose the election. So that's why I just don't think Georgia is going to be one of the most. I don't think Georgia will be a deciding factor. I think Arizona totally will be a deciding factor. Same with Wisconsin. I think that will be a deciding factor. And if you actually take a look at if you actually take a look at what happened in 2020, the 2020 election results in some of these states like Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at that. So for Arizona, Joe Biden won the state of Arizona back in 2020 with the narrowest margin of all narrow margins. Like, this was extremely close. It could have went either way, and Joe Biden only won it by around 0.2 percentage points. Yes, 0.2 percentage points. That's extremely narrow of a margin. Biden had 49.3% of the vote, and Donald Trump had 49.1% of the vote. So Joe Biden only won by a margin of 0.2% back in 2020. And obviously 2024, we're talking about, will be a little bit different, where Joe Biden is way more, I would say, unpopular than he may have been in 2020. People now know both Trump and Biden's resume as president, so now they will really decide who they would like to vote for in 2024. 0.2%. So let's say Donald Trump does win Arizona. Obviously, I'm not saying he does, but let's say he does with maybe like a tilt margin, because Joe Biden won it by a tilt margin. Let's say Donald Trump wins it by a tilt margin in 2024 and flips the state of Arizona. That puts Trump at 190. Let's say Donald Trump wins Texas, which is likely at this point. That puts Trump at 230. And let's say Donald Trump wins North Carolina as well with Texas. That puts Trump at 246 electoral votes. So Arizona will be very important, and Arizona is pretty much a must-win for Donald Trump if he wants to win the 2024 election. And then if Trump wins Arizona, let's say Donald Trump can win Wisconsin. If Donald Trump wins Wisconsin, it puts him at 256 electoral votes. Donald Trump would have to win Georgia to put him over 272 electoral votes. So Donald Trump has to flip at least three states to win the 2024 presidential election. And those states that Trump must flip in order to win, are Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin. In order for Trump to win the election in 2024, he must flip these 3 states: Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin. Now, I know earlier I said Georgia was not that important. It is for Donald Trump. Now, Georgia is not that important for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden can lose Georgia but still win the election. Meanwhile, Donald Trump pretty much has to win Georgia no matter what in order to even come close to 270. So yeah, Georgia matters for Trump more than it does to Biden, even though it matters to Joe Biden as well. It matters to Donald Trump more, because if obviously Donald Trump loses Georgia, he basically that's an automatic win for Joe Biden, obviously. But if Donald Trump wins Georgia, Joe Biden can still win the election. So Georgia matters more for Trump than it does to Joe Biden, obviously. And so yeah, for Trump to get to 270, he needs Arizona and Georgia and Wisconsin. Now, Joe Biden can win Pennsylvania and Michigan, and Joe Biden is still below 260. Even Nevada, if Joe Biden wins Nevada, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, 3 of those states, he still falls short of 270 at 266 to Donald Trump's 272. So if Donald Trump wins Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin, while Joe Biden wins Nevada, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, it's going to be a close race, but Donald Trump is the narrow winner. And you take a look at the results of Wisconsin back in 2020. Joe Biden narrowly won that. Joe Biden only won Wisconsin by around 20,000 votes. 20,000 votes may seem a lot, but it's not. It's only a margin of 0.6%, less than a percentage point. So that's how close Wisconsin was back in the 2020 election. It was a deciding factor. You know, Wisconsin helped Joe Biden get past 270, and it's going to have to help Trump get past 270 in 2024. So yeah, Joe Biden only won Wisconsin with a margin of 0.6%. So it definitely could flip in 2024 to Donald Trump. And like I mentioned, let's say Trump wins Wisconsin, it's going to help him get to 270. And it's going to, you know, Trump would barely hit 270, actually. He would need Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin. If Trump just wins Arizona and Georgia and Biden wins Wisconsin, Biden wins 276 to Trump's 262. So, Wisconsin is also arguably a must-win for Donald Trump. Now, there is a scenario where Trump loses Wisconsin but still wins. That is if Trump wins Pennsylvania and loses Wisconsin. That's the only way Trump could actually win, is if Trump wins Pennsylvania and loses Wisconsin. 281 electoral votes. So, Pennsylvania will also be very important for whoever wins it. Because if Biden loses Pennsylvania, he's likely to lose the election. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, he is likely to win the election. So basically, whoever is the winner of these states, whether it doesn't really matter, whether it's Arizona, whoever wins Arizona is likely to win. Who's ever to win Wisconsin is pretty much likely to win. Whoever wins Georgia, they're not automatically going to win because it's not as important as Arizona or Wisconsin or even Pennsylvania is. So that's what I was trying to say. So at the end of the day, the most important states that can ultimately, you know, the tipping states that can decide the election is Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And for Donald Trump to win the election, he's going to need a few of these. He's going to have to flip a few states, which I think he can do it, as Donald Trump lost a lot of states in 2020 that he previously won in 2016. For example, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a state Trump won in 2016. It's a state he lost in 2020. Same goes for Arizona. Arizona is a state that Trump won in 2016. It's also a state Trump lost in 2020. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a state Trump won in 2016 but lost in 2020. Same goes for Georgia and Michigan. Georgia and Michigan. Both of those states went to Trump in 2016, but they flipped to Biden in 2020. So those are winnable states for Donald Trump because he has a record. He's done it before in 2016, so he definitely can in 2024, especially considering Joe Biden's popularity is just so low. And so yeah, that's the margin of Wisconsin. You want to take a look at the margin of Pennsylvania. Joe Biden won Pennsylvania in 2020 by around 1.2 percentage points, a little bit more than the other states, like I showed. Arizona and Wisconsin. Pennsylvania was won by a little bit more of a margin for Joe Biden of 1.2 percentage point, a little bit over 1%, but it's still really close. Don't get me wrong. If Donald Trump possibly can do good in some of these counties that narrowly went to Biden, it could ultimately go to, flip back to Trump in 2024. So yeah, a margin of 1.2% for Joe Biden in Pennsylvania is not a lot at all. It's definitely winnable for Trump, as he proven he can win it, just like in 2016. So now that we, reviewed what happened in 2020, we obviously can tell that Donald Trump can definitely win those states that he lost in 2020 because he's proven that in 2016. Let's take a look at 538. For example, if these polls were to be right, this is how the 2024 election would look like. Polls from October, really recently. We're in November, but October, that's really recent. All polls indicate that Donald Trump is the winner of Arizona in 2024. Or no, you take a look at Morning Consult. This is the pollster. Trump's up by 4. You take a look at Redfield and Wilton Strategies. Trump is up by 5 in both of these polls. All polls in Arizona indicated Trump victory. Not a single poll. Keep in mind, not a single poll is indicating a Biden victory. All of these Arizona polls from August and October even have Trump winning. Not a single poll has Biden winning. Even a Democratic funded poll has Trump winning. And so let's say if these polls were to be right, Donald Trump would be winning Arizona by a lean margin. Okay, that puts Trump at 662 electoral votes. Okay, Arizona is going for Trump according to these polls. Well, how about Georgia? Let's take a look at Georgia. According to Georgia polling from October, all of these October polls have Trump up winning. Not a single poll is indicating a Biden victory in Georgia. Just like in Arizona, same thing goes for Georgia. Those states are very similar. A Democratic funded poll for both Georgia and Arizona have Trump up winning. If you have a Democratic funded poll that is supposed to be biased for Joe Biden, having Trump winning, that goes to show you how bad Biden is doing in these polls. Not a single poll is indicating a Biden victory in either Georgia or Wisconsin. Not Wisconsin, Georgia and Arizona. Both of those states don't have Biden winning at all. Not a single poll has Biden winning either Georgia or Wisconsin. So let's say Georgia goes to Trump with a tilt margin. Trump's at 262. Okay, well, how about Wisconsin? Let's see if Wisconsin can come out, good for Biden. Let's see if there's any good news for Joe Biden in Wisconsin. You take a look at polls out of October. Both October polls have Trump up by 2 and Trump up by 3. Okay, well, you take a look at some older polls, maybe from June. Biden's up by 2 and Biden's up by 9. Biden up by 9, that's really inaccurate. I don't trust that, obviously. It's not going to happen. Whether you're on the left or the right, you can ultimately agree that Joe Biden will not win Wisconsin by 9 percentage points. That is unrealistic. Well, okay, you take a look at Democratic funded polling. Biden's only up by 4. And you take a look at Emerson College, highly rated poll, highly suggestive poll. Trump's up by 3. That's more accurate. Trump pretty much already is the winner in Wisconsin. Because if you take a look at these Democratic funded polls, those are biased to Joe Biden. If you take those out, you take a look at Morning Consult, sponsored by Bloomberg. Trump's up by 2. You take a look at Emerson College, like I said, highly rated polls. I would trust those polls more than any, other biased polling. Like I said, Democratic funded polls, you don't want to take a look at those because those are biased. And same goes for Republican funded polls. You don't want to take a look at those. Those are biased. So, Wisconsin, Trump is the near winner by a tilt margin. You can argue it's a toss-up. And then, okay, that gives Trump the victory at 272. Okay, well, can Biden make the race at least closer? Let's take a look at polls of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania polls suggest that, that Joe Biden could ultimately win Pennsylvania, actually. You take a look at polls from October. All these polls are from October, actually, besides one. But you take a look at all the October polls, Biden's up by 2 in Pennsylvania. That's good news for Joe Biden. Then Trump's up by 1, and then it's a tie at 39%. And then Biden goes back to being up by 1. So if you average those out, and then Trump's up by 2, obviously, but this one is from September. If you average those out, Donald Trump is a narrow winner in Pennsylvania. You can do the math, but if you average those out, it does come out to be Donald Trump is the winner of Pennsylvania in terms of these polls. Okay, Biden's up by 2, but then guess what? Trump's up by 2, and then it's a tie. So Biden, in fact, is losing and trailing in Pennsylvania. And this would be if the polls were to be right. Now, obviously, you don't want to trust the polls, as the polls thought Hillary Clinton would win in 2016. That was wrong. Polls suggested that Republicans would do better in the 2022 midterms. That was wrong. So you obviously don't want to always trust polls. But let's say in a scenario where these polls were to be right, Donald Trump would win big in 2024. Your thoughts and opinions on this map in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me that Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, these 3 purple states, are the deciding factor of, the outcome of the 2024 election. Let me know if you agree with me on Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. I think those are the 3 most important states out of all these states. Out of all 50 you see on this map, Arizona and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania will pretty much decide the outcome of the 2024 election. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And all 3 of these 3 states actually was won by Joe Biden in 2020. So it's obviously going to be hard for Trump to flip. And it's obviously going to be hard for Joe Biden to win again, considering how Americans disapprove of him and how unfavored he is. And Donald Trump is actually winning in terms of, you take a look at, we already went over polls, but you take a look at favorability rating or, general election polls. Donald Trump is really, I wouldn't say crushing Biden, but he's pretty much doing good in a lot of these polls. Trump's up by 6 in a head-to-head matchup between Trump and Biden. Trump is up by 2. Okay, well, and these are the most recent polls, by the way. We're in November, and this is from November 1st. So, coming from Harris X, that's the pollster. 2,000 registered voters answered this poll from, I believe, 2 days ago from the day I'm recording this, November 1st. Trump's up by 6 and 2. Okay, you took a look at the, the days prior, the day before, October 31st, Halloween. It was a tie between Trump and Biden was up by 1. So, even if Biden is up by 1, that does not matter, because Trump can still win when Biden is up by 1, because Hillary Clinton was up in these polls and Trump still won. So, it doesn't really matter. Even if Joe Biden is narrowly winning the popular vote, Trump still wins. Joe Biden has to win the popular vote with a greater margin than just 1%. That's not going to win the election. Joe Biden winning the popular vote by just 1%, that's not going to win him the election, because Trump has proven, and Trump has showed in 2016, that Trump can lose the popular vote and still win the election. And that's a proven fact. It is a fact that Trump can still lose the popular vote and still win the election, because we have a thing called the Electoral College. And, that's going to favor Trump in 2024. So all of these 3 deciding factor states went to Joe Biden in 2020, but went to Trump in 2016. So it's going to be very close. In my opinion, Trump could, let's say Trump wins Wisconsin, maybe, Biden wins Pennsylvania, okay, and then let's say Trump wins Arizona. It's going to be really close. And this is pretty much how I see it being. Either Trump narrowly wins Arizona or Biden narrowly wins Arizona. Either Trump barely wins Wisconsin or Biden barely wins Wisconsin. So this is how I see it. Biden barely wins Pennsylvania, Trump barely wins Wisconsin, and Trump barely wins Arizona. That's my prediction. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And what do you think are the 3 most important states, the deciding factor states in the 2024 election? Do you agree with me that it is these 3 states, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania? And all polls indicate a Trump victory. So, and even generic ballot polling, generic ballot polling maybe might not be the the most accurate thing of them all. But you take a look at the general election, or you take a look at favorability among these 2 candidates between Trump and Biden. It's just not looking good for Joe Biden at all. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe, as we are about to hit 600 subscribers.